Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm Mindy, this is See Mindy Mom, and today I wanted to chat with you guys and give you some tips if you are just starting out on Weight Watchers or WW or maybe recommitting. I wanted to share with you how I make this plan work when my family is not working the plan. Stay tuned. Okay, so it is the first of the year, and I know we have a lot of newbies. I know we have people who are just starting out on the WW bandwagon for the first time, and maybe some of us are hopping back on. Maybe we're recommitting after the holidays or after taking a break of a few weeks or a few months. And so you're going to see a lot of videos coming out from the creators like me who are WW people about how to work this plan, what our favorites are, what our favorite foods are, what our recipes are, what we eat in a day, what our weigh-ins are, and we are trying to be as helpful as we can and as open as we can so that we can help other people who are just starting out. One of the things that I wanted to talk about that I haven't seen a lot of people talk about is how to work this plan if you are the primary cook, chef, grocery shopper, meal planner in your house and your kids and possibly your spouse are not in weight loss mode. How do I navigate continuing to grocery shop and cook and prepare meals for my family that they like, that they enjoy, that they will eat, that are also friendly to me working the WW Freestyle plan? Okay, so here are some of the things that I have done and some of the tips and tricks that I have to share along that vein. My first suggestion is to serve starches a la carte. Okay, so this stems from the way that I learned to cook and the way that I ate growing up. I'm from a large family. I am the fourth of 5 children, so if you are from a large family or know large families, perhaps you know that one of the ways that we stretch the food and make it feed a lot more people is to make it into a casserole or a soup or a one-pot dish that includes pasta, rice, or potatoes. Those 3 starches are very cheap, and they are a way to kind of stretch the meat and the cheese, the more expensive part of the dish, and make it feed a crowd. So whenever I was first starting out, I started to look for recipes or started to adjust recipes where I was taking out those starches, because those starches may be cheap on the pocketbook. It may be something that helps you stretch your budget, but they are not cheap when it comes to Smart Points because they are carbohydrates. They don't have a lot of protein. They don't have the macronutrients and the micronutrients, you know, that fruits and vegetables would have, the vitamins and minerals. And so they're going to cost you more where Smart Points are concerned. Instead of making a chicken and rice casserole, I would just prepare the chicken, just prepare a chicken dish and serve the rice on the side. Instead of adding the potatoes to the soup like I would normally add them, I would take the potatoes out of the soup and maybe make a baked potato that my family could have, because I wasn't really needing the baked potato. I just wanted the meat and the veggies that was in the soup. So that's my first tip. Find a way to serve the starches a la carte. Secondly, make cheese a garnish. And this kind of goes along with the first tip, serving starches a la carte. I was starting to take cheese out of the dishes because a lot of the dishes that I made, you put cheese in it or you put cheese on top of it before you bake it. And instead of adding it in or on top, I would just serve it on the side and everybody could add whatever they wanted. The reason for this is because then I could control how much was going on my plate or on my dish. And cheese is something that is worth it to me. The points, I buy full fat cheese. I don't do the fat-free or the reduced fat anymore. You certainly can if that's something that you want to try, but all the more reason why then you would probably want to serve cheese as a garnish, because you probably want to have your family or your spouse or those who are not dieting eat the regular cheese and save the more expensive fat-free and reduced fat cheeses for yourself. When I was using those, that's what I did. And now that I have switched back to full fat dairy, I still do this way because a ½ ounce or an ounce of cheese is enough for me, and other members of my family might like more on their plate or less. A ½ ounce of cheese is going to cost me about 2 Smart Points, and a full ounce costs me 4. And it's just way easier to track how much I'm eating and how much is going on my plate whenever I take it out of the main dish and just let everybody add it in as they want. Number 3 is one that's pretty easy for me, and that is to skip the bread. I know that we may have a lot of bread fans out there, and if that's you, just know that on WW Freestyle, you can make just about anything work as long as you make room for it in your daily points. So if you are a huge bread fan, by all means, Adjust the way that you're eating throughout the day so that you have room for that piece of bread that you really want to have in the evening. Of course, I would make sure it's something that you really enjoy, you know, like a signature bread from a local bakery that you like, or a particular kind of bread from the bakery aisle that you enjoy. I am not a huge bread fan, so it is not hard for me at all to skip over the bread, because that piece of bread, that roll, that crescent roll, that biscuit, it's going to cost me anywhere from 4 to 8 smart points, and it just isn't worth it to me. It's not something that's going to keep me full for very long, and it's not something that has nutrients that my body needs, so I just skip it all together, and I leave it for the kids and the family if they want it. But I'll be honest with you, I don't even make bread or serve it very often anymore. It's just not something they even ask for. They've just gotten used to going without it. And since you are taking the cheese out and you are skipping the bread, you are leaving room on your plate for my next tip. And that is to double the veggies, halve the starch, as in half it. Cut it in half. So if you are used to eating a full cup of rice, a full cup of rice is anywhere from 5 to 7 points. I cut that in half and I only eat half a cup of rice. And sometimes I only eat a quarter cup of rice or whatever starch that I'm serving. I will cut that serving in half and it will save me quite a few points. Sometimes I eliminate it altogether. The other thing that I do to fill up my plate is to double the veggies. Veggies on Freestyle are 0 smart points, and unlike fruits, they have they're much lower in sugars for the most part. So I do not have any qualms with doubling up on the veggies, especially at dinner time, because that's when I tend to get my veggies in. So in addition to having the steam in the bag broccoli, I might also throw a can of green beans on the stove or make myself a little salad. Just be careful where veggies are concerned. If you are buying them, buy fresh, frozen, canned, without added sauces or sugar, because obviously that would add points to it. You want to be in control of the things that you're adding to your foods so that you can count the points appropriately. Tip number 5 is to put Unfriendly WW foods in the no zone. Now, I know that technically no food is unfriendly on WW. You can find a way to work it in if it's something that you really want. You can plan for it. However, if you're on this program long enough, if you're a veteran or even if you're a newbie, you're already finding out that there are just some foods that don't work as well as other foods on the program, and you're going to figure out what's worth it to you and what isn't. So one of the things that I do is I have created a space that is off limits to me. And I know that this takes some willpower and it takes a certain mindset on your part if you are capable of doing that. For instance, my son has a snack jar. It was a gift to him from his grandparents. It was an old cookie jar that my mother hand painted and put snacks in, and it was part of his birthday gift one year. That snack jar sits on the counter in our kitchen, and it is off limits to me. And at first it was kind of hard not to just want to sneak in there and grab one little Hershey's Kiss or one little Starburst, you know, or one little package of Goldfish crackers. But you know what? After I had resisted that temptation for several days, it became kind of a game to me of, well, now I've gone 2 weeks, so I'm not going to break my streak now. Now I've gone a month, so I'm not going to break my streak now. And it has been 7 months, and I have not reached into that jar one time. And so that is a source of pride for me, and it's not a streak that I want to break. So leftover Halloween candy, if I was dipping into the Halloween bucket, guess what? It went in Brick's snack jar. And leftover Christmas candy that was in their Christmas stockings or that we had out for guests, it went in Brick's snack jar. And now it is off limits to me, and I am not going to touch it because I know that's not for me. That's my mindset where that is concerned. It's in the no zone. The Crockpot, or the slow cooker, I guess depending on what part of the country you're in, is a big friend of mine. If you have followed me for any length of time, you know that a lot of my meals I make in the Crockpot. And it is especially good for making tender, juicy, flavorful meats whenever they're lean. For one of them is chicken. I hardly ever cook chicken in the oven anymore. I cook it in the Crockpot and occasionally in my air fryer. I also have a really delicious roast beef recipe. Believe it or not, you can make a delicious roast without having to add a stick of butter or a whole bunch of other ingredients that are worth points. I will leave that recipe in the description box. The key to that recipe and what makes that recipe so delicious is the amount of time that it cooks in the Crockpot, 16 to 20 hours, and it is absolutely delicious. And the ingredients that I add to it are not adding points to the meat. It's going to be delicious on its own and just take in some of the flavors because it was was cooked in my crock pot over a long period of time. My next tip is to shop smart. If you are the primary shopper for your family, personally, I think it's okay not to bring home things that are tempting to you, even if they are things that your family wants. Chances are there is something that they like that will fill that void that is not tempting to you. For instance, if you really like Oreo cookies and your kids really want Oreo cookies, perhaps you could bring home a different kind of snack or treat that is not as tempting to you, so that you aren't tempted by the Oreos being in the pantry, even if you buy them for your kids. Of course, you could put them into the no zone, but let's face it, there are some things that are much more difficult to resist. And I have no problem telling my family, this isn't something I'm going to keep in my house because it's something that is going to be difficult for me to resist, and I will find something else for you to partake of that isn't as hard for me to say no to. So be mindful of that whenever you're out grocery shopping, whenever you're going through the aisles. Are there things that you probably shouldn't keep in the house, or maybe even just for a short time while you're starting out or resetting on this plan? Are there things that your family can indulge in and that can meet that need for something sweet or something snacky that are things that you don't really care for anyway, so they're not going to tempt you to overindulge or to go off plan to eat? And the last one might be kind of controversial, but I really have no problem asking my husband to do this whenever it's necessary, and that is to ask my spouse to indulge elsewhere. So going back to, let's say, the Oreo cookies, if that's something that my husband really wants to have and it's something that tempts me, as it were, Oreo cookies aren't really that tempting to me, but let's just say that they are, and it's something that he wants. I can ask him to pick those up, at like a convenience store and enjoy a package while he's out and about running errands. I can ask him to keep them at work. I can ask him to keep something in his car so that he can indulge in it on his commute. Basically, it doesn't have to be in my house in order for my spouse to continue enjoying that. Maybe it's potato chips. If potato chips are a trigger food for me and I don't want to keep them in my house, there's no reason my spouse can't enjoy those when he goes out to lunch or when he's on his way to pick up the kids and has to swing through the gas station to fill up the car. Hopefully that makes sense. I think it's perfectly okay to set some boundaries and to set some limits, especially when you are the one doing the grocery shopping and the cooking and the meal planning. I think it's perfectly fine to say, there are some things that I just can't have in the house, honey. Could you please make plans to enjoy that thing that you want away from me, at least for the time being, while I'm wearing this plan? Okay, so that's what I have for you guys with this video. If you are on WW Freestyle or really any weight loss, weight management, weight maintenance plan, and you have tips for how to work that plan when your family isn't, be sure to leave them in the comments below, because you might be helping me or somebody else who's watching or listening. Hopefully I shared with you something helpful today. I would love it if you give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel, and I'll check in with you guys with more WW content very, very soon.